and where we are going as a country and the challenges that we face. I am grateful to the President that he has seen it fit to give me an opportunity to understand government by also taking me to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, where I was able to combine the experience I had out there of how tourism has been able to grow. And I was able to get into the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife and reactivate a sleeping giant, because we need to provide employment to our people, and that is one of the low-hanging fruits. As a result, the numbers of tourism, we set up structures that we expect that by the end of this year we'll be looking at about 3 million visitors arriving into this country, if not more, with a trajectory of 5 million within another year and a half. We're also able to deal with issues of human wildlife compensation that had become a big problem by actually launching a new scheme, which was launched by the President, and paying out about 1 billion shillings to people who have been waiting forever, and I've put in systems so that more people could be paid. We're able to fence by fighting corruption many places. When I got into the ministry, I found that they were fencing to keep animals away from people at a cost of about 3 million a kilometer. 3 million a kilometer. And with 300 million that I had, I looked around, I did my research, and I realized that the government was being conned. So we were able to advertise, and we brought down to a reserve price of maximum of 850 million a kilometer for the same standard of wiring. And as a result, instead of only 100 kilometers with 300 million, we are now looking at close to 400 million. And after discussions with the President, when he was launching the fencing program, we agreed that it is possible to bring the cost down to 650. So we're able to do many, many things in terms of human wildlife conflict, build dams, and other projects that will continue, and I believe I left the ministry at a good trajectory. I am quite grateful that the President has seen it fit to nominate me for the Ministry of Labor, and I think I understand why. Because when I was traveling as a Minister of Foreign Affairs, the issues of bilateral trade labor agreements and being able to secure employment for our people overseas and also grow the economy by bringing in business processing into our country were critical. And I understand the market. And having served also as a governor of Machakos, who can move quickly and bring results, I understand why the President appointed me into this position. We had the crisis of Gen Zs lately, whereby people were on the streets, and the main issue was employment. And we have to create an enabling environment. And I believe that I'm in a position, because of my history and service, to be able to create an environment that will grow jobs across many sectors in government, and also be able to help our people realize skills that they can work either here or overseas. In a nutshell, Mr. Speaker, is to say that from the time you exit the labor ward to the time you are ready to enter the labor market, we want to set up systems to ensure that you do not fall through the cracks. As I conclude, the issue of social protection are important. We have very many people in this country that are poor, that are suffering, that are losing hope. We have many children that are in despair. We have many systems that we've been talking about for the last 60 years. And I have ideas that we will discuss as we continue of how we can change how things are done to ensure that our people do not fall through the cracks. I submit, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, nominee. I'll now invite the Deputy Speaker to be the first to ask you a question.
Dr. Mutua, as you know, His Excellency the President has been at the forefront of promoting labor migration as a way of dealing with unemployment. And also, secondly, because migrant workers bring a significant contribution to our economy through their remittances. And then you have also been Cabinet Secretary of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs. So we'd like to know how you leverage on those contacts that you made to be able to promote this. But before you proceed, and while you're at it, I'd like you to elaborate on two issues that have tainted your image. One is that you are closely associated to a Miss Judith of First Choice Employment Agency. There are clips of you introducing her to the president, and she's known, and it's even come to parliament. There are petitioners from Wasingishu County, whom she owes millions of shillings and has impoverished many young people in Wasingishu because she conned them out of their money. And this is in the public domain, so please explain to us that you will not fall prey, if confirmed, to this issue. Number two, you also had another incident in Canada where you met a public senior government official informally. It was not a formal meeting, informally, and had informal discussions. But when you came back to Kenya, you announced in the media that you have secured an agreement with Canada so they can recruit Kenyans. And thereafter, it was denied by the Canadian government. In fact, the Canadian government ended up spending 2 weeks at the Kenyan embassy to train Kenyans on what to say, the ones at the embassy in Ottawa, on how to behave and the things that are official and not official. So please explain to us those and tell the people of Wasingishu how they'll get their money back. Thank you.
Nominee?
Thank you very much, Honorable Boss, for your questions. Let me start from the very beginning. One of the things that I want to do in terms of labor migration is ensure that we have agreements. The challenge we have is that people, when they go outside this country, they go as by themselves. And at times they get abused and they don't get the right rates that they should. This is because of bilateral labor agreements. We have only signed 4, which were signed even before this government got into place. And we have another pending 16, 17. My move is to get close to 30, if not 50 bilateral labor agreements by going through the hoops. I have been able to do a bit of research, and the problem is the bureaucracy that we have within our government system. By working with my colleagues, and I'll bring it up to cabinet if appointed, if pass the vetting by this house, is to ensure that we break the bureaucracy so that we can move faster in terms of processing bilateral labor agreements so that we can be able to get into that. Now, when it comes to the issues that you mentioned of a lady called Judith, I tend to remember that we had a function at KICC where we had different stands. And the stand of Foreign Affairs and Diaspora was next to the stand of Ministry of Labor. And I'd never met this lady in my life. But she was the one who was showcasing what the Ministry of Labor, I was not the minister then, was showcasing the program that they had of what was happening. And when the president came, we were told to combine the 2 issues of labor because of diaspora at that time. And I was there with my PS and others, so I was introducing the president to the people who were presenting. And if you watch the clip, I didn't even know her name, and she introduced herself. That was the only time that I ever met her, and after that meeting, I've never met her again. So I don't have any conflict of interest. I saw her stories later on about her, and those are things that, you remember when I was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, I'd even called a meeting to discuss these issues of rogue employment agencies, and we'll come to, it's an issue that I'll be dealing with squarely.
So you have an undertaking that you'll ensure that the people of Wasingishu who lost over 100 million shillings will get them, you'll investigate and get their money back? I'll give an undertaking that I will ensure that the rule of law is applied, and if anybody has to return monies according to the rule of law, we'll make sure we follow the process so that people get their rights, because it is wrong for people to lose their money through con organizations. That. Now, the issue of Canada is what I would call mischief. When I went to Canada, I had official meetings, not unofficial meetings. And we had an agreement. When I got to Kenya and announced what we had agreed on, immediately an organization, a fake, so-called fake organization that was promising Kenyans jobs and charging them jobs, put out a notice of providing employment to Kenyans. The Canadians were not responding to me. They were responding to that fake announcement to show that clearly that fake announcement quoting the Canadian government was not theirs. It was not an agreement between the 2 countries. Because of all that, I even had a call from my counterpart at the time from Canada to apologize for the mix-up, because the way the Kenyan media, and it was just basically, they were very clear. It was one of the newspapers, a journalist took it and twisted it.
You or your counterpart? Who was apologizing?
My counterpart called me to apologize that this had been mistaken, had been taken out of context. And to explain to me that that was not the intent of the statement that they issued. Actually, they were supporting the agreement and the discussions that we had about fighting fake people who have been misleading Kenyans all over, quoting the government of Canada, to say they were not aware of that issue. And we're able to sort out that issue and move on and be able to actually establish systems, which I can discuss later on, about getting seasonal workers to go to these countries.
So what is the position with Canada now? See, when you left the ministry, what was the position on that point, on migrant workers?
The position of Canada now is that one of the bilateral labor agreements that I'll be following up is that Canada does not sign bilateral labor agreements as a nation with countries, but the provinces, according to their law, are the ones that sign agreements. And what we had agreed about was about getting seasonal workers for Canada. Canadians are looking for seasonal workers so that during the summer, you can go there, you can work for six months or so, and then go back to your country. They already have many seasonal workers from lots of South American countries, from the Philippines, and even other Asian countries, but they don't have many or any from our country. So that is something that is still in process, and it is quite exciting because I got information from some colleagues and some friends from Canada when I was nominated for this position, saying at last now we can revive the conversation and continue from where it was left.
Before the next question, your documents that you came with should be handed, Sergeant, to the clerk to verify with what we have on you. Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. CS, I'll just start my question from where you stopped on Canada. Because then you are foreign minister now, you've been nominated to be the Minister for Labor. And the issue that you had then was a labor issue, basically. I'd want to hear what are you going to do to now actualize not just that Canadian program, but we have since we established the National Employment Authority that has a system that is called the National Employment Authority Integrated Management System that was created to be a portal where Kenyans, young Kenyans who are looking for jobs can be able to access jobs even in the diaspora. This portal is there, but basically because of what has now been viewed as very poor communication by government, many Kenyans don't know about it. Many Kenyans don't access the jobs that are advertised there. There are some who you hear complain that the jobs that are there are low-cadre jobs in the Middle East and elsewhere, but not the kind of jobs that quite a number of our well-educated workforce is looking for. So I want to hear now, you, if approved as Minister for Labor, what are you going to do to ensure, one, that this portal has more professional and higher cadre jobs, but also Kenyans are aware and you create awareness to Kenyans on how to access jobs using this portal and other fora that you may create as Minister for Labor. And having served as government spokesperson, probably this is your opportunity now to engage with the young people, create jobs, and be able to show them how to apply for those jobs.
The next, Jeanette.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, my question to the nominee is, the less than 2 years now, you have traveled a lot in terms of changes from one ministry to another. You started from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then you went to the Ministry of Tourism, and now you are here to be vetted for the Ministry of Labor. In a brief manner, can you share with us what you have achieved in the Ministry of Foreign and the Ministry of Environment, no, this other one, Tourism, because it will inform us what's ahead of you.
Let's take Naisula as well.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable Mutua, on 1st of March 2023, when you were the Cabinet Secretary at the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, you made a very important communication through a note verbal, where you informed diplomatic and consular missions, UN, and other international organizations in Kenya, that it was agreed in the interest of efficiency that the missions may communicate directly with departments, different ministries in the country. And you know now, even in the Ministry of Labor, you'll be dealing still with other countries. It is important for you to share with this committee and also Kenyans what informed your decision then, because normally we know that they write directly to the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, but now they could write directly to other ministries and departments. And the last question that I had is that how do you plan to handle the perennial industrial unrest in most sectors? For example, health, because you, as much as it is in health, you will play a critical role as the CS of Labor, that is in case you're approved and confirmed as the CS of Labor.
Nominee, you can answer those three.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, Majority Leader Honorable Shungwa, thank you very much about the National Employment Authority. And it is true, they have a website that many people do not know about. I've been in government for very long. I've never even looked at that website. And you know the old adage that if you wink at somebody in the dark, you're the only one who knows you're winking. And that is exactly what has been happening. The Kenyans who are looking for work, Mwananchi who's looking for work, has not really known about this portal and what is available. So one of the first things that I'm going to undertake is to have a good marketing campaign to ensure that Kenyans know about the opportunities that are there. Kenyans do not want handouts. Kenyans want to be given opportunities. They want to know where you can get their skills. They want to know how to apply for jobs. They want to know where the opportunities are. And because there's a mistaken idea that the jobs out there that are available are only jobs for house helps. Whereas when I did a bit of research and I looked at the available jobs in the countries like Australia, Germany, Italy, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Turkey, US, Canada are looking for people, and they are ready to employ Kenyans in various areas. For example, the international community are asking for about 11,200 jobs of drivers. If you can drive, they're looking for drivers. But we have to be a ministry that is able to take the person who is looking for the work and connect them with the employer and teach them also how to get those jobs. I know what kind of documents do you need to get those jobs. They are looking for another 8,400 domestic drivers. They are looking for hotel workers. We've got about 3,000, nearly close to 3,000 people in beauty. If you've done beauty, to work in a spa, to be able to do nails, they're looking for those young people to be able to go to Canada and other countries. Also in firefighting, in all the different areas, baristas, in heavy truck drivers, construction workers. If you're a mason, if you know how to do carpentry, you know, Australia is looking for you. So we are going to make sure that people are able to know that regardless of the field you're in, nurses, doctors, people are looking for Kenyans to be able to work. So as you wait for the economy to grow, because our job is not to send people out of the country, we have to also grow jobs here. As you wait for our economy to grow, in the meantime, do not give up hope. We are going to make sure that we connect you to available opportunities and also help you gain the right skills so that you can be able to get to those jobs. Honorable Jeanette, you asked a question about moving from one to the other. The other day, I was thinking about my good late friend, Honorable John Michuki, who quickly served in the Ministry of Communication and Transportation, as it was called then, and then transited to Ministry of Interior, and then very quickly to the Ministry of Environment. And when I look at the thinking behind the president moving from one ministry, is because that I move in, and in a very chap manner, I'm able to enact processes that are able to grow the system. For example, in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I was able to sort out an all-standing issue of deployment. You know, for a long time, people felt that they are deployed according to who knows who. I set up a system so that if you're in the service, you know that when your time comes, you don't need to know the minister, you don't need to know the PS, that automatically you fall into place to bring a sense of fairness. I was also able to work to get a lot of MOUs that had pended to be quickly worked on and to move faster so that we can get into all these agreements so that people can be able to move faster. I was able to also work closely with the president to prepare for trips that were not mainly just diplomatic in nature, but were also very economic in nature. Because it's all about getting other people's money to come to our country, bringing money to our country. And I was at the forefront negotiating for companies to come and open factories here in this country. When I moved to the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife, I quickly looked at where do we get our tourists from? Why are we losing tourists to other people? And by meeting all the stakeholders, I've set up a system where we are concentrating on markets like the African market and other markets that can give us the numbers that we need and the money that we need. I also, by looking at reorganization of how Kenya Tourist Board does its things, is to focus on key areas of marketing our people. So that people can come to this country. I was able to deal with the issues that I talked about, I don't want to repeat myself, about human-wildlife conflict and the arrangement of those things that were done. So I'm very, very proud of the work that we did. But I did not do this because I was sitting in the office. You know, when I got into the office, I spent few hours in the office and more hours on the ground. I started what we called utalii mashinani, because Kenya has so many things to offer. But we've only been selling the beach and the ocean. And I wanted to be able to transform and make every part of this country to be a tourist attraction site. I went to Samburu, I went to Kwale, Kilifi, Narok, Taveta, Laikipia, Makueni, Kitui, Busia. I was in Bungoma, Mombasa, Kiambu, just to mention but a few. I went across this country and I was still going around this country to look at new tourism circuits so that tourists can keep on coming. I had a very big plan, which I hope my colleague, which we have talked to her, she can continue. And that is transforming our coastal area to be the entertainment zone for the continent of Africa, to be the Miami of Africa, to be the Riviera of Africa, so that people who are landlocked in the continent and others can come just to have a good time at our coastal area, enjoy our culture, and be able to move on. On the final question by Honorable Lesuda about the note verbal. This was done not just by myself, but an agreement after cabinet discussions of how we could cut down the bureaucracy. Because you look at, for example, the amount of money that we get as grants and loans from foreign nations, and the amount of money that we spend of those monies, we are only absorbing 25 to 30%. So here we are crying out that we don't have money for development. Yet close to 70% or 65% plus of the monies from donor countries are unspent. Why? Because of bureaucracy. By the time the process goes between an ambassador to come and see a minister for this activation to go from the Ministry of Finance and back, it takes forever. So the idea was, can we speed up? But it was not just a blanket where a minister, an ambassador would wake up and just walk into the office of a minister. No, no, no. You talk to the minister, but you also communicate to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And when the minister was approached by an ambassador, they communicate to the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And during their meeting, there would be an officer sent from the Minister of Foreign Affairs to sit in that meeting to take notes. What it was cutting was that direction of note verbal. A letter comes from my office. It goes to the, or comes from an ambassador, goes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the protocol division, spends a day or 2 days there as it's being sorted, goes to the relevant team, it's sent to the ministry. The ministry takes 2 or 3 days before the minister sees it. The minister works on it. It comes back, the dates are wrong, and then now it goes back that you need new dates. It can take 2 weeks just to book an appointment of 30 minutes. But when they talk among them, you say, no, I can't make it tomorrow. Can we make it next Wednesday? 2 minutes, they have agreed on a date to meet to make sure that things are moving forward. I submit.
Chairman, there's a question is not answered on the industrial, the strikes, the health. I gave that as an example, but also on what he has said on the note of verbal, the same thing, Chairman, you've been saying about communication. When that was not communicated well, that it was to cut bureaucracy, it sent scares out there, people wondering whether just an officer at any department can now communicate directly with an embassy. So that's what has come out clearly here about communicating what you would like to do.
And I totally concur with you, Honorable Lesuda. It's about communication. But there's a lot of pushback because people like the comfort of doing things the same way. And people don't like to see change. So there's a bit of pushback, a lot of propaganda by people who thought now that their clout will diminish without looking at the bigger picture of trying to get our economy moving forward. But I totally agree. The final question on the perennial labor disputes. I bring experience as having served as a governor for 2 terms in Machakos, where we had issues of labor disputes. And I realized that majority of these labor disputes and the strikes occur because the problems are led to fester from a small pimple to a gangrenous leg that has to be cut off. And my technique will be setting up a system whereby they'll be tracking and knowing the kind of problems there are in the industry, such that people, when the problem starts, we can intervene early. Because the Ministry of Labor has only been intervening at the end, when people are already on the streets. We need to intervene even before a strike notice is issued. We'll be studying the landscape and like radar, looking at where is the problem, so that we can approach and try to have dispute resolutions done when the problem is still small. But Mr. Speaker, sir, and honorable members, we must realize that I want to speak having served in government for about 20 years now, thanks to God. A lot of problems, for example, with the medical fraternity when they go on strike, and they went on strike when I was the governor, even nursing, is because some of the fundamental human rights issues that need to be taken care of are not taken care of. It's usually not even the issue of big salaries. It's a welfare. It's a way of operations. It's the comfort level. It's the way they are empowered. Let's take, for example, when I go to Machakos, it was quite sad that you find that doctors would be treating somebody who has medical insurance, and that person is under their care, and yet when the doctor's child or spouse or himself or herself got ill, they didn't have medical insurance. So it is correcting some of those employment issues. And one of the things that I want to do is look at enforcement of the Employment Act to ensure that we give workers the benefits that they deserve according to the law. Because when workers are work in a good environment, it increases productivity. Productivity means growth. Growth means more employment opportunities for our people. I submit.
Robert Mbui, Owen Baya, and George Murugara, in that order.
Thank you.
One thing, Mr. Speaker, so that I don't lose it, on something that Honorable Lesuda asked on that note verbal.
Yes.
I just want to tell this committee that the nominee is not factual. It's totally inaccurate.
Challenge him.
Number one is that note verbal was the most unfortunate decision that has ever been made in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. To delegate their core mandate was wrong. And that thing was reversed immediately. The Prime Cabinet Secretary came into office. It was wrong.
Was it the most unfortunate note verbal?
Yes, and I respect Honorable Nelson Koech and the perspective that he has given. And I was chair of the Foreign and Diaspora and Defense Committee, and we had discussions about this issue quite a few times. And it was a government policy that was passed at the time. And it fit the bill at that particular time, and it served its end at that particular time.